Hey guys, Trevor Wiles here. Today we're going to be doing a video on how an oil furnace works. This is my furnace. It's a Duquesne made by Lennox. It's got a Beckett AFG in it. So the purpose of this video is just to show, just to basically explain the basics on how these things work, which is quite simple. So you go and you turn your thermostat up, the furnace will start. How it starts is that this will get a call for heat, and this burner will kick on. And how it does that is that motor gets power, usually 110 volts, which will drive that pump, and there's also a blower in that burner. When it starts that up, there's also going to be power sent to that transformer, which will send, I don't know how many voltage, like million volts or whatever it is, I don't know, but it's going to send a spark to your electrodes, and your oil is going to come out of a nozzle, which will ignite, and it'll make a fire. The oil was sprayed into a very, very fine mist, also known as atomization. These things run off of diesel fuel, home heating oil, and kerosene. Those are the three main fuels that you'll come across. Diesel fuel and home heating oil is actually the same thing, just dyed red, and you don't pay road tax on it. Whereas diesel, you do pay road tax, and well, it ain't dyed. So once this combustion chamber gets up to temperature, your blower, your main blower fan is going to kick on. Now, I would take that off and show you, but there's a safety switch that will take this out of commission. If you take that off, it's for safety. And then once that's back on, the furnace should start back up. But once your blower kicks on, it'll send the heat all throughout the house. Now, depending on how long this thing's running, there's going to be a switch on this thing called a high limit thermostat. And what that does is that once this combustion chamber and heat exchanger reaches a certain temperature, it's going to send a message to your burner, and it's going to cut it off, and it's going to let your blower cool off your combustion chamber down, your heat exchanger. If it was to overheat, you could actually crack the heat exchanger, and that ain't good. A cracked heat exchanger sucks on any furnace. Now, on oil furnaces, it's actually quite easier to know if you got a cracked heat exchanger. You'll get soot around your air vents. It'll smell like oil when this thing's kicked on. Just simple things. So, now once this thing gets up to temperature, like when your house is warm enough, the burner's going to shut off. The fan's going to keep running for a certain amount of time. And once it's done, heating your house, the fan will cut off, and now it's going to wait for another call for heat. So that's your basics on oil furnace, how they work and everything. Okay. Common issues that these things run across. Now, little disclaimer. I do not, and I repeat, do not recommend working on these things if you don't have any knowledge of these things. If you screw up with these things, you can actually set your house on fire, or you get electrocuted. It's just basic, simple safety, things that you should use whenever you're working on these things. You got to have common sense. If you don't have common sense, don't touch it. If you got a problem, you don't know how to work on these things at all, and such, do not touch it. Call a professional. Let the professionals handle it. But the basic problems is nozzles can plug up every once in a while, your transformer can go out, and your CAD cell can fail. Those are the three big common issues that you'll come across. Some pumps will have screens in them that will plug up occasionally, but that's very uncommon. So that's the main things that could happen with these furnaces. All right, this is a little safety. If you for some reason want to troubleshoot these things, if this goes out, what this will do is going to trip out on safety. On your CAD cell relay, this red button here is your reset. They're either on the front or on the top. They're all different. Not all furnaces are the same, but this is just basic, simple knowledge. So if you come down to your furnace, and this is where you really want to be careful. When troubleshooting these things, that red button should only be presses should be only limited to 2. And there's a reason. If you hit that red button and you look in there little peephole and you see a fog in there, that's oil. And if you keep hitting that red button, you're actually filling your combustion chamber up full of oil. And then if this thing ignites, if you ignite it, then, well, you could turn this thing either into a self-propelled missile, or it could take off. It could do all kinds of shit that you don't want with an oil furnace. You could really fuck yourself up doing this. So please just limit that button to only 2 presses, okay? Once to see if it stays running, and if it doesn't stay running, the second time should be when you're troubleshooting. If you got a fog in there, the basic way to test to see if your transformer is working is you can undo your 2 screws and you can pop your transformer open. Pop out your CAD cell because it will sense light, and if it's sensing light like it is right now, it could think there's a fire in there and it won't start. So keep that in mind. And then once you open that up, you should see 2 springs. Those 2 springs are what touches your electrodes. Do not touch those things. It would not really feel too good to get lit up by that transformer. If you get lit up, it could either kill you or put you on your ass, and that would not feel too good. So once that's open, get a flathead or a screwdriver that is insulated. And then what you do is you set the metal part on both of the springs, hit your reset, and then once it kicks on, you're to drag it away from the one spring. And if you don't see any a spark or anything, your transformer's bad. If it ain't, if it's got spark, oh, you see that? That's the high limit. That was the high limit thermostat right there. What happened was this combustion chamber got warm, cut the burner off, and then once it cooled off a little bit, kick back on. That's your high limit. That's how the high limit works. Back to what I was saying. If you don't have spark, your transformer's bad. If your transformer ain't bad, your electrodes could be bad. They could either be fouled up or something else could be bad with them. If you don't really know what you're doing, call a professional. You know, that's just what I would recommend doing. Don't be tinkering on this thing if you don't know what you're doing. So, yeah, that's some basic troubleshooting you can do. Now, this is worst case scenario. Well, this ain't worst case, but you run out of oil, and you run to the store, get kerosene, wherever you put oil in your tank. This isn't a situation where you just hit the red button and restart. You actually have to prime these things. So what I would do is I would hunt down a little bleeder. See that little thing there? That little thing there? That's your bleeder. Now, they're in many places. They could be either on top or coming out the front. Look for your bleeder. And then get yourself a catch can, like this one, and a hose. And on Beckett's, I don't know any other burners, but on Beckett's, especially on these AFGs, there's a 3/8 inch wrench. Put the box end over it on that bleeder. Connect your tube. Hit the reset button. And once the burner kicks on, loosen it up. And it should prime the air out of the line. Now, this could take 2 tries, so just be wary. If safety's out the first time, just wait for a little bit, then hit the button again, and make sure all that air's out of that line. Now, little word of note: if that red button on these modern ones, these modern controllers, you hit that red button a certain amount of times, I think it's 3 times, this thing will go into hard lockout. If it goes into hard lockout, you got to hold that button down for at least a minute, maybe more. You got to hold that down, and then it'll reset. It'll take it out of lockout. But if you're not priming this thing and it goes in a hard lockout, call a professional. So that's another thing. All right, I think that just basically wraps up the video. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment down in the description what you think. If you got any tips and pointers, write that down in the comments below. Again, if you have a problem with these things, just call a professional if you don't know what you're doing. That's the best thing you can do. Just call a professional, call a heating company or whatever it is, and they'll come out and they'll fix it. But this is just basic knowledge for the average homeowner that has an oil furnace. Anyway, you have a good day, and please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a good day, everybody.